Right. Okay. So. Sorry. Okay. Right.
This show is so bad, guys.
Okay. So. Retribution have been around for months at this point, okay? Like, they've been around for a long, long time. WWE, their Twitter account announced that this new group was coming in, and then they came in, and then they have thrown Molotov cocktails. They have thrown cinder blocks through windows. They've attacked the ring with chainsaws and whatnot. There's been theories that, oh, it's the people who were fired. It's NXT recruits. The people who were actually wearing the suits weren't really the people. Then we started to get the people. Then we kind of found out like Tommaso Ciampa was going to be part of the group. This and the other. We've had lots of this and bits and bobs. And then a couple of weeks ago, they cut their first promo. And you and Davis did this show, and you were like, "Oh dear, this was not a good promo because this was WWE scripted trash. Like, and it didn't sound good." And you're like, "Oh yeah, that is bad." And they've got a graphic and everything now. And it's like nothing says invading force more than having your own graphic and being brand exclusive to Monday Night Raw. Chaos ensues. This week, ladies and gentlemen, Retribution officially debuted. I'm going to say this is the official debut of Retribution, right? Because this is the group. This is the actual group of Retribution. They took off the masks to reveal other masks.
There was a smaller mask underneath the first one.
They took off the mask to reveal that they were wearing other masks. So, and we didn't find this out until later in the show, but they've got names. They've got new names. So we at one time it was Dominik Dijakovic, it was Dio Madden, it was Shane Thorne, Mia Yim, and Mercedes Martinez. Those two we don't know yet. Those two don't have names. Give us your ideas in the chat of what you think those names should be. I've already seen someone say they should be Laser and Blazer. Because it did proper feel like that moment from Dodgeball where it's like,
absolutely
team, Laser, Blazer. And these names are proper. It's Final Fight, Streets of Rage, like low-level baddie names. These are the baddies from Street Sharks. These are like... These are baddies from Captain Planet. We have now. You might be able to correct me on this if I got this right. Dominik Dijak is now T-Bar, right?
T-Bar.
I nearly kept saying T-Bone in the review.
Yeah, no, that would make more sense. But T-Bar is worse.
T-Bar. They don't set T-Bar. He is T-Bar.
He is T-Bar.
We've got Dio Madden is now Mace.
Okay, Mace in isolation sounds okay. It's not good, but it's okay in isolation.
Yep. So we've got those, and then the other one is Shane Thorne. Who, I'll be honest, I didn't know it was Shane Thorne.
No, me neither.
Because I just kept running my nose. The skinny lad, the proper, because he looks tiny.
Yeah, like, I mean, when you're next to Dio Madden and Dominik Dijakovic, though, you know, you're gonna look a bit small.
That's what I mean, because like he's in the ring, like, and he was one who was getting beaten up by Bobby Lashley in the main event, and I was like, this dude, he like absolutely teeny tiny in the rest of them. But it's Shane Thorne, and he is called Slapjack, and that is the name that broke me because
I genuinely. Oh man, when you just said Slapjack, then in my mind I was saying Slap Nuts because that's just the name I call him now. Like, oh man, these are terrible.
These are okay. So they came out and they cut this promo, and I wrote my notes like, oh, this is really weird because like they've making the brass ring joke, and the commentators are falling over themselves to try and like explain why they've got contracts or ask why they've got contracts. We'll get into that in a minute, and then they didn't introduce themselves. I thought, what an odd way to debut a group. Like, you've unmasked them, and you don't say, my name is Dominik Dijakovic, my name is Dio Madden. You didn't do that. I thought, how really odd that is. What a weird way to debut a group. And then later on, when they did the main event, and the three of the lads come out, and Tom Phillips goes, with Retribution are coming out. It's T-Bar, Mace, and Slapjack. Pete, his name is Slapjack. That's his name. That's his. That's the name they gave him.
It's like that character in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that calls himself Taserface and is openly mocked for that name. And WWE have watched that and gone, you know what? Taserface, that's a great name. We should do more like that. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so bad.
And so I've seen like a few people be like, oh, do you know what? It's not, I grew up with Earthquake and Typhoon and The Undertaker. Like these names are nothing. But like, I don't think that's a fair comparison because that's when WWF was a comic, like it was a cartoon. Like they were meant to be cartoon characters. They literally had a cartoon. This is more like when Vince Russo did Gang Warfare back in sort of like 98, and he had the DOA and the Truth Commission. And like the DOA was made up of like Chains and Skull and 8-Ball, and absolutely no one gave an F. Like no one said, oh man, can't wait to see Chains have a match. Can't wait to see 8-Ball have a match, because no one knew who they were. Like no one was like, oh, it's the Harris twins. Like they were able to point that out, but they were like absolutely no idea which one it is. What was the name of the Truth Commission? I'm pretty sure one of the Truth Commission was called Recon.
That sounds about right, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the commandant, Kurgan, the interrogator, Recon, Sniper, and Tank. Like this is
Tank. I remember Tank. Yeah,
this is the level of lame that we have here. This group is meant to be a badass group of like invading force, and one of them is called Slapjack. Like. This is so lame.
It's so lame. Like you can tell from us just laughing so much that this is awful. This is supposed to be a serious group that we're supposed to be intimidated by, that is supposed to come in and cause chaos, and we just can't stop laughing at their names. It's genuinely awful. It's like their characters out the Matrix. Like it's terrible.
The hacker names, and
it's the hacker names. They're Dozer and Tank and Neo and Morpheus. God, we're going to see them all soon.
Yeah, and actually, about sort of half an hour ago, so about 40 minutes ago, just before we came on air, this was released by WrestleVotes, the very reliable WrestleVotes on Twitter. Just talked to a source who was in the building last night, said the presentation of Retribution was a major topic of discussion, met with laughter at times backstage. Direct quote, the masks and names are already making the road for these guys impossible to climb. Like, and there's no way back from this. You're called Slapjack. Like, you can't come back from that, mate.
You can't just keep throwing around the name Slapjack and expect me not to laugh every time. This isn't fair. Yeah, no. I mean, if that doesn't say it, that's got to say it all. If people backstage are laughing at this with us, like that's got to say everything. Like they're going to be a comedy group before long. They are going to be completely destroyed. This is the Shockmaster moment for them. This is the beginning of the downfall of Retribution from possibly this point onwards. Maybe give it 3 weeks for Vince to get tired of it. But this is going to be why they are going to be treated like absolute jokes and completely buried down the cart before long.
I like Mecha Boo here. Mega size oof. Yeah.
Or mecha oof, you might say.
Oof. And I know some people might be saying like, oh, a slapjack's like a legit weapon, like the police used to use and this and the other. Like, it sounds silly. Because it's got because the first thing I think of is Jeff Jarrett calling someone slapnuts. That's my first port of call. It's not to think of because Santana and Ortiz use a slapjack in AEW, where they've got like the pool balls in like the sock and things like that. And Conan used to use one as well. But it's a very funny word. Because it's slapjack. Like that's a funny word.
Even like the WWE Twitter account was making fun of the names. Like they tweeted out, I think Slapjack in the main event match at the end of the night against Hurt Business took a flapjack from Bobby Lashley, and WWE tweeted out to be like, is that a flapjack for Slapjack? I was like, oh no, even they're getting in on it. Like they're doomed.
Sarah's got it here. That's the 5th member of the group, Mega Oof.
God, I had a mouthful of tea. You can't do that.
Coming to the ring, Mega Oof.
Oh god.
So these dorks now have names. We haven't even talked about the masks. Like, we haven't even got to the masks yet. The smaller masks that were underneath their main masks. Oh my god. Okay. So they come to the ring, and Tom Phillips announces they have been signed by WWE. This group, their sole mission for existing is to destroy WWE. They hate WWE so much, they're attacking them with chainsaws. They're throwing Molotov cocktails. They're messing with the lights. That's how much they hate WWE. They're messing with the intro, forcing them to go to commercial breaks to make money. That's how much they hate WWE. So WWE have signed them. Like,
it doesn't make any sense. And the commentators were putting over, well, now they've got contracts. They can do what they like when they like. It's like, that's the opposite of what happens when you're under a contract. You can do what you want before you get signed.
Also, they were doing what they wanted before they signed a contract. They were throwing Molotov cocktails at Pete. It's not like they were going to throw this Molotov cocktail. Actually, better not. We need to wait till we're under contract first. We need to wait till they signed us.
Need to get it signed off by Vince.
Before they can tell us that we can do whatever we want. They were already doing whatever they want. They're ruffians. God. So they're now signed to a WWE contract. And then in the promo, me or Dijak, whichever one he is, Slapnuts. Was he? No, he's
T-Bar.
He's T-Bar, thank you.
TikTok, yeah.
His crap Transformers that no one wants to play with because they want to play with Optimus Prime. That he's sea spray over here. Like, he cuts this promo where he's like, you wrestlers, you're all signed to WWE. You're all like, you're all WWE payment whores. I was like, you're paid by WWE now. You're one of them. You've signed a contract.
Oh, there's so many loopholes. Nothing makes sense. And I don't think they care. That's the main thing. I don't think WWE cares whether it makes sense or not. They're just like, look at the people. They've got masks. Aren't they cool? And all of us go, no, they're not. Stop it.
Oh, so I guess the prevailing theory here must be that there is a higher power position that has hired them, right? Because the commentary were saying, how can they have, who's given them contracts? How can they possibly have contracts? Great questions.
Adam Pearce has got to be the only contender. Right?
It has to be Adam Pearce, right? Like, he is the GM. He's the unofficial authority figure of both Raw and SmackDown. It must be him, right?
He's the only contender because, well, okay, let's temper that. Let's say he's the only contender that makes sense, which means it won't be him. But he's the only person that's been presented on TV like some sort of authority figure, someone who would have a position of power who could have hired them, potentially. But as we know from your Calling Spots episode, it's Fred Durst.
If only it was Fred Durst. Right, okay. So the masks. They took off their mask to reveal their smaller mask underneath. Shane Thorne, Slapnuts, is wearing a hockey mask. Now, I know a lot of people said, oh, it's Jason Voorhees. No. Jason Voorhees wears a cool hockey mask. This is more like, it's not even Casey Jones. Like, I called him Casey Jones in the review. That's downplaying Casey Jones. This is a proper Mad Max. It's like the baddie from the original Mad Max is like, and his wife runs. That's what this is. He's wearing this like hockey mask thing. Then you've got T-Bar, sorry.
T-Bar, yeah.
T-Bar, your T-zone. Make sure you exfoliate your T-zone. That should be his catchphrase. Make sure you exfoliate the T-bar. He is wearing
exfoliate.
He's wearing Bane's mask from The Dark Knight Rises. Okay. Yeah. And then you've got Dio Madden, Mace, who is wearing the baddie from Mad Max Fury Roads, the one who looked like Peter Stringfellow. He's wearing his mask. And then Mia Yim and Mercedes Martinez, the unnamed ladies of the group, they are wearing masks. They've kind of got like this sort of like paint thing going on with their, like there's all got some paint stuff on, but they're wearing masks that have got the mouths cut out. So why I made the joke in the review, they look like anti-mask protesters who are just like, they look like they'd be posting up on Twitter, you can't make me wear a muzzle. Like that's, We're holding a placard that says "Freedom, COVID isn't real" or some stupid nonsense like that.
Yeah, so ridiculous. I mean, okay. In isolation, I will say that Mercedes Martinez, I think, looks cool. Discounting the rest of Retribution, I think she looks kind of cool. Her get up is okay. I'd say that in isolation, maybe Mace Dio Madden would look okay, but it's the combination of all 5 of them together. They look like a bunch of idiots.
They look so lame.
And Dijak, T-Bar, T-Bone, K-Quick, he's got some paint on his head now. He's got like shaved head with like some red paint down the middle of it or something. Looks super weird. Like, it's just not, it's not cool. And the idea is that they're supposed to be cool and they're not. So it's failed at the first hurdle.
Found a good way to remember from Sandman. T-Bar works at a cafe. It's tea time. So yeah, they're wearing contacts and stuff now. Like Sean pointed this out in the Fightful review, and I completely agree with him on this one. Like, they had names. They've already said we're from the Performance Center. They've already said we've nearly gone 20 minutes before we've even gone to the show yet. They said in their promos either last week or the week before, I think it was last week, they said we're from NXT. We're NXT call-ups. We're NXT Performance Center guys. So they had names. Why not make that part of it? This is like, that's Dominic Dijak or Dominic Dijakovic. I've never seen this side of Dominic Dijakovic before. What's gotten into Mia Yim? You know, ask these questions to make, like, because if you're watching NXT, if you're trying to get people to watch NXT on a Wednesday night, get invested in those characters so they then go to the main roster, why would you then just take those characters and be like, and now they're different? Because now there's no continuity between them. Why is Mia Yim doing this?
They don't care. Like, I mean, this isn't, you know, breaking news that they don't care about NXT, but like they bring people up with no continuity from what they did in NXT. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa came up as a bloody tag team in the midst of their blood feud because they don't care. And granted, they got to keep their names for that one night, but like they didn't care about the continuity of NXT. So for Vince, they just say, cool, we've got 5 people. No, you've got 5 NXT talents that are talking about their time in NXT. And if they want to say, I used to be called this, but now I've got a different name because I don't want to be called that anymore because I'm here to make a name for myself, and it wasn't T-Bar or Slapjack, then maybe it might be okay. But because it is Slapjack and they haven't referenced their old name and just said, we're here to cause chaos, it's awful. Yeah. God, I'm getting heated.
P-Liz, I love this one. He's got the name wrong. T-Bone looks like the 3rd member of the Ascension. Like, that's exactly what he looks like.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I tell you what as well, if I'm going to be positive about it for a second, I think that Dijak sounds cool. He sounds cool, as his promo style with this deep, gravelly voice he's got sounds cool. The content of the promo is awful, dreadful, woeful, but he sounds cool. There you go. There's a positive.
There's a positive for you. I thought that, I like Dio Madden. I think Dio Madden, like, you take the mask off, I think Dio Madden can look quite cool. I think the masks are holding them back. It's kind of like what WrestleVotes was saying there. Like, they've got a hill to climb now. And it feels like it's an impossible hill to climb. It's hard to come back from Slapjack as it is. Now you've got to try and get over Slapjack and wearing that hockey mask that makes you look like such a tool. It makes them look like just really, really lame. And the report is that we're heading towards Survivor Series with this. Team WWE versus Retribution at Survivor Series. Maybe that will be the end of the group. Who knows? But I kind of like, fantasy booking. There's 5 members of this team, right? Which is the number you would need for a Survivor Series team. But there are 2 lasses in that and 3 lads. I'd actually really like to see them do a Team WWE match that was mixed. It was intergender. So you have 3 male members of Team WWE and 2 female members of Team WWE. And that will be your first ever intergender Survivor Series elimination match. WWE are well high on their, like, it's the first time ever we're doing this. It's this, that, and the other. That's something that's actually quite cool. And I could get behind that.
Yeah, I mean, WWE would ruin it, and they'd put in weird rules, and the booking of the match would be terrible, because then you'd have, like, well, we can't have the women fight the men, so when they make a tag out, then, the women have got a tag out as well, and stuff like that, and it would be really convoluted and weird, but I could get into it. However, it depends what 2 women they put with them, because I get a feeling it would probably be like Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott.
Oh god, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get onto those later as well. Let's talk about the main events. So throughout the night, basically they came out and they kind of like the Hurt Business come out at the start of the show after Retribution cut their promo, and they have a bit of a tete-a-tete, and then loads of Retribution show up. They're like still the masked ninja ones, and they have this little brawl thing. At least a match gets announced later on. It's the first time that Retribution are stepping into the ring. And then throughout the night, we kind of see them attacking people backstage. We see the Hurt Business laying out members of their ninja group. So like they were kind of like to even out the numbers. And then we got the match. And it was the match with T-Bar Mace. I've written here, T-Bar Mace and something else. Slapjack. Slapjack the Jobber, by the way, looks so tiny in amongst all of these big men. Like that's what he's there for. Because Dijak and Madden are big, so they get protected. They get to go in and just do their big spots, and then you send Slapjack in to go in there and just get beaten up by the other big lad from the other team. But I hated this with an absolute passion, Pete. Hated this so much because WWE always do this, where they've got this team that they're debuting, so they don't want them to lose, but they've also got this other team over here that they've booked them against that they don't want to beat. So what do, Pete? What do?
It's probably a DQ, mate.
It's a fucking DQ. It's exactly what it is, Pete. That's exactly what it is. And it was our third DQ of the night. And how did we get this DQ? Because Bobby Lashley gets the hurt lock on Slapjack the Jobber, drags him into the corner. Dio Madden walks away from his corner, punches Bobby Lashley, and the referee goes, "Sorry, mate, DQ." And that's it. That's how the match ends. It's not a big brawl. It's not a big, like, the referee loses control or anything like that. It's Dio Madden just goes, bop. And the referee goes, "Sorry, this is too much for me to handle. DQ that man." Hated it so much.
Oh, man. I mean, you guys can see that this has got us so heated that Luke even swore. I mean, he doesn't play by anybody's rules now. Lukewarm Luke Owen.
I'm signed to a contract again, Pete. I can do whatever I want.
Oh God, it's so bad. I genuinely, I'm struggling to find the words to put into perspective how terrible this was. The DQ finish, them looking lame, having terrible names. The in-ring stuff was fine, bar the actual DQ finish. Like, they seem okay in the ring, which is good. Obviously, we know Dijak's a fantastic wrestler. I'm a big fan of Shane Thorne in NXT. I thought he was pretty good. I haven't really seen too much of Dio Madden, so I can't comment on that yet. But, Hurt Business, I really like all of them. So, like, it's all a good mix, and it was fine, but nobody gets over. It's the classic WWE mentality. It's the classic formula of really cool thing we want to protect, other really cool thing we want to protect, or in this case, really not cool thing that we want to protect. And so nothing happens. Nobody gets over. It's always the way they do it, where they book themselves into a corner and be like, "Oh, this is a really cool matchup. We should book this." And then they go, "Oh, I can't have anyone win. Oh, yeah, DQ. It'll be fine." And they did the lamest DQ in the world, as you've already spoken about. But it's all of the components of everything that Retribution did on this show were all terrible. There was not one solitary bit that was good. Oh, man. Like, you can't get much worse.
This was a bad episode of Raw. Really bad episode of Raw. And do you know what? That main event DQ stung because we had 2 other lame DQs throughout the night as well, like earlier on, because they did, if you haven't watched Raw, they did Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre again and again, ended it in DQ. And they also did Asuka versus Peyton Royce and ended that in a DQ because they didn't want to beat Asuka before she faces Lena Vega, but also they don't want to beat Peyton Royce at the moment. So they just did it. And it capped off the night of just being like, oh my God. And then there's this big brawl with the Raw locker room empties and they go out to chase off the and it's shot awfully. It's so poor. No idea what's going on. Randy Orton lays out Drew with an RKO.
Yeah, like I genuinely could not see what was happening with that because the camera cuts were too often. It was all too shaky. I was like, I can see there's people and I can see, I think Drew threw one of them. And that's all I got. Like, I don't know what else happened. But then suddenly there was Randy Orton and he hit an RKO and that was it. And I was like, Retribution is still out there, like around the ring. And the show just goes off the air. I'm like, what? What's the conclusion? Who gets over out of this? Nobody. Nobody gets over because Randy Orton attacked Drew from behind, so he doesn't get over. Drew doesn't get over. Keith doesn't get over. None of Retribution get over. None of Her Business get over because they didn't finish the match. It's like, what's happening? Nothing's happened on this episode. It's 3 hours of TV and nothing's happened other than we know that they're really lame. But that's it.
Hold on, Pete. You said that nothing happened. Akira Tozawa got eaten by a shark. Like, you know, like... If you haven't seen Raw, Akira Tozawa got eaten by a shark.
This review is all over the place. But in fairness, that is so indicative. That is exactly what happened on this episode.
I feel like it's whenever it's just me and you getting together. I feel this is the first time we've done a Raw podcast together, and the last time we did one was when Cedric Alexander was that janitor lad,
Gary the Goat Garber.
Yeah. Hey guys, waka waka. I lost, but I guess I also won. Right. Okay. Nearly half an hour into the show, we're only getting into the super chat. This is going to run long.
So sorry.
I'm so sorry.